Good day to all of you. Welcome to ODL session. This is Indian Economy class week 8 lecture 2. Today's topic is instrument of monetary policy. Let us get into the class. In the last class we have studied what are the objectives of monetary policy after knowing the definition of monetary policy. In this class we are going to discuss about the instrument of monetary policy. The main monetary policy instruments available to the central banks are the open market operation. We used to call it as OMO, and bank reserve requirement. And the third one is the interest rate policy and how we relend or how to discount the monetary loan or other borrowings. These are all the instruments for monetary policy. Of course, it connects the trading policy through the credit policy. So, whenever we think about the monetary policy, the open market operation, bank rate policy, trade policy, these things are the main instruments. We can classify the monetary instruments into two categories. We used to call it as monetary measures. One is the quantitative one, another one is qualitative one. Under quantitative one, bank rate policy, varying reserve ratio, cash reserve ratio, statutory liquidity ratio, and open market operation. These are all the quantitative techniques. But there are some qualitative technique also there. Some of the qualitative techniques are the marginal requirements, selective credit control measure, moral suasion. These are all the qualitative monetary measure for the monetary policy. Let us discuss one by one. First, we should start with the quantitative measures. This quantitative measures refers to those measures that affect the variables, which in turn affect the overall money supply of the economy. So, what are all the quantitative measure? The first one is bank rate, the bank rate policy. The rate at which the central bank provides a loan to the commercial banks is called bank rate. This instrument is a key in the hands of the central bank, that is the Reserve Bank of India, to control the money supply. Increase in the bank rate will make the loan more expensive for the commercial bank. Thereby, they will pressurizing the bank to increase the rate of lending. The public capacity to take the credit will gradually fall, leading to fall in the volume of credit demanded. So, this may be used as a anti-inflationary measure. Then the second one is called VRR, that is varying reserve ratio. This reserve ratio determines the reserve requirements wherein the banks are liable to maintain certain reserves with the central bank. So, in order to control the credit, the central bank may increase this particular ratio. So, the commercial banks and other banks will have to deposit more. By the way, they will stop lending. That is, they can mitigate the lending. Then the third important instrument is called cash reserve ratio, CRR. The cash reserve ratio refers to the minimum amount of fund that a commercial bank has to maintain with the Central Bank of India, that is the Reserve Bank of India, in the form of deposits. For example, suppose the total asset of the bank worth is say 200 crores. The minimum cash reserve ratio is 10%. Then the amount that the commercial bank has to maintain with the RBI is 10% of 200 crores is 20 crores. If the ratio rises to 20%, what will happen? The reserve with the Reserve Bank of India may increase to 40 crores. Thus, less money will be left with the commercial bank for lending. This will eventually lead to considerable decrease in the money supply. We may say in the other way, a fall in CRR will lead to increase in the money supply. So, vice versa. When there is a increase in CRR, there will be decrease in the money supply. The next monetary measure is SLR, statutory liquidity ratio. The SLR is concerned with maintaining a minimum reserve asset with the RBI, whereas the cash reserve ratio is concerned with maintaining cash balance with the RBI. Here it is a reserve of assets. What we are trying to mean? We can define this statutory liquidity ratio in this manner. The minimum percentage of assets to be maintained in the form of either fixed or liquid asset with the RBI. The flow of credit is reduced by increasing this particular liquidity ratio. Of course, vice versa. Reverse also we can make it. In the previous example, this can be understood as a rise in SLR will restrict the bank to pump money in the economy, thereby contributing that particular thing decrease the money supply. It is reverse in this case. Why? When there is a fall in SLR, an increase in money supply in the economy and vice versa. CRR and SLR is opposite in their action. And the most important tool the central bank has is the open market operation. This open market operation refers to buying and selling of securities in an open market in order to affect the money supply in the economy. The selling of securities by Reserve Bank of India will wipe out the extra cash balance in the economy. Thereby, they can limiting the money supply. Whereas in case of buying securities by RBI, additional money is pumped into the economy, stimulating the money supply. So, this open market operation will act in two ways, either restrict the money supply or increase the money supply. And these are all the quantitative thing. Now, we will move to the qualitative measure. There are 5 to 6 measures are there. In this class, I am going to say only 3. The first one is the marginal requirements. The commercial banks function to grant a loan rest upon the value of security being mortgaged. Collateral security, we used to call it as collateral security. So the banks keep a margin, which is a difference between the market value and the security of the loan value. For example, a commercial bank is trying to grant a loan for say 80,000 rupees against a particular security of 1 lakh. So the margin calculated is 1 lakh minus 80,000 is 20,000. That is a margin. When the central bank decides to restrict the flow of money, then the margin requirement of loan will be raised and vice versa in case of expansion of credit policy. If the loan value is 80,000 means the borrower has to give the security up to 1 lakh because 20% is a margin. Suppose if we reduce that, suppose 90,000 the Reserve Bank is saying only 10%, then it is up to 90,000 he can avail the loan. So this particular margin requirement is a right tool which is qualitative but it is an effective tool. And the second qualitative tool is the selective credit control, SEC. An instrument of monetary policy that affects the flow of credit to a particular sector positively or negatively is known as selective credit control. How to say positive or negative? The positive aspect is concerned with the increase in the flow of credit to the priority sector. On the other way, the negative aspect is concerned with the measure restrict the credit with a particular sector. So, this particular thing, in order to control or regulate a particular sector, this selective credit control tool will be used. And beautiful concept is moral suasion. You can expect a section A question. What is moral suasion? A persuasion technique followed by the central bank to pressurize the commercial bank to abide the monetary policy in terms of moral suasion. How? This moral suasion involves meetings, seminars, speeches and discussion which explain the present economic scenario and thereby persuading the commercial bank to adopt the changes needed. In other words, this is an unofficial monetary policy that exercises the power to to talk. Instead of saying legally or through document or written thing, whenever they have the discussion, informal talk, or having be transparent with the scenario of economy, that may have some additional responsibility for the bankers to regulate their banking system, because this is more effective tool than the quantitative here. That is why this moral suasion is one of the best tool of qualitative monetary measure. With this, I am completing the class. If you have any doubt, you can ask me. I have shared my email ID and contact number. I am Dr. Chandrachud, Professor and Head, Department of Economics, School of Management Studies and Commerce. Thank you for watching. We will meet in the next class.